A storm is coming. There isn't a single cloud in the sky yet, but your joints already know. An ache, a pressure, a restlessness you can't explain. You call it old age or a sensitive body. But at that exact same moment, something completely different is happening somewhere else in the world. In 1975, in the city of Haicheng, China, in the dead of frozen winter, hundreds of snakes came out of hibernation into freezing air for no apparent reason. A few hours later, the ground shook with a magnitude of 7.3. Officials had already evacuated the city because the snakes had told them something. Now, let me ask you a question. If a snake can feel this, can't you? Or do you feel it too? And you've simply forgotten how to read it? You can easily dismiss this. You can say just a coincidence. You can say animals act strange all the time. And for a long time, most scientists said exactly that. The United States Geological Survey, the world's leading authority on earthquakes, stated clearly for years, a reliable, repeatable link between animal behavior and earthquakes has never been proven. What we have, they said, is only anecdotes, stories, isolated incidents, not scientific evidence. And they were right, partly. Because if you count every dog's bark, every cat's nervousness as an earthquake omen, you generate millions of false alarms. Science calls this confirmation bias. We only remember the times it worked and forget all the times it didn't. But then came 2004. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck the Indian Ocean, followed by one of the most devastating tsunamis in history. And that day, observers on the coast of Thailand saw something. Elephants. Hours before the wave hit, with no warning system sounding, the elephants suddenly grew agitated. They trumpeted, and they ran towards steep high ground. People followed them, and they survived. So how did the elephants do it? The answer isn't in their ears. It's in their feet. Elephants produce some of the lowest frequency sounds on Earth, deep rumbles the human ear can never hear. This is called infrasound, sounds below 20 vibrations per second, entirely outside the range of human hearing. And they don't just produce these sounds, they detect them too. There is specialized tissue in an elephant's footpad. This tissue can sense ground vibrations directly, like a seismograph running through their bones. A study published in 2017 found that elephants in Thailand and Sri Lanka detected and responded to the seismic sound of the 2004 tsunami 38 minutes before the wave struck the shore. From 1,000 kilometers away. 1,000 kilometers. 38 minutes. A signal the human ear could never catch was reaching the elephant's brain through its feet. And it wasn't just elephants. In China in 1975, days before the Haicheng earthquake, it wasn't only snakes. Chickens stopped laying eggs, cows stopped producing milk, fish began leaping wildly at the surface of the water. Dozens of different species, unaware of one another, all turned strange at the same time. And this wasn't happening for the first time. The earliest recorded instance of this dates back to 373 BC. In the city of Hellas in ancient Greece, days before a devastating earthquake, rats, weasels, snakes, and centipedes abandoned their homes and fled to safety. 2,400 years ago. Humans had already noticed this back then. Now it's your turn. Because for a long time, scientists assumed the human body misses these signals entirely. The elephant has its feet, you don't. The snake has its skin, you don't. But research in recent years has revealed a far more complex picture. Let's start with your joints. According to research from the National Headache Foundation, 73% of people who experience migraines identify weather changes or a drop in pressure as a trigger. According to research from the National Headache Foundation, 73% of people who experience migraines identify weather changes or a drop in pressure as a trigger. When air pressure drops and when a storm is approaching, the synovial fluid in your joints expands. This expansion puts pressure on nerve endings, and that pressure is registered as pain. The same thing happens in your brain. When pressure drops, the blood vessels in your skull dilate. This dilation causes inflammation, and inflammation triggers migraines. So when someone says a storm is coming, I can feel it, they're not lying. Their body is genuinely measuring a pressure change, like a barometer. But this still isn't infrasound, this is just atmospheric pressure. What about those deep, inaudible rumbles? Can humans actually feel those? The answer is surprising. Yes, but not by hearing them. The human ear cannot hear sounds below 20 hertz. But when strong enough, these sounds can be felt as a physical vibration in the body, a pressure in the chest, an unexplainable tension inside you. In some studies, dizziness, restlessness, even an indescribable sense of dread. So maybe your ears don't hear the sound, but your body feels it. But perhaps the most powerful evidence isn't biological at all. It's cultural. In 2004, 78,000 people lived on Simeulue Island in the Indian Ocean. The earthquake's epicenter was just 60 kilometers away. The tsunami wave had only 15 minutes to reach the shore. In Banda Aceh, hit by the same tsunami from a city much farther away, hundreds of thousands of people died. On Simeulue, only 7 people died. 7. Why? Because the island had a word, smong. After another tsunami struck the island in 1907, the survivors began telling a story to their grandchildren, to their grandchildren's grandchildren, generation after generation. The story was simple. If the ground shakes violently and the sea pulls back afterward, run to high ground immediately. Don't think, don't ask, run. For 97 years, this story was told like nothing more than a bedtime tale. Then in 2004, the ground shook, and the people ran. The same thing was true for the Moken people off the coast of Indonesia, sea nomads. In their legend was Laboon, the wave that eats people. According to the legend, before Laboon arrived, the sound of the cicadas would suddenly fall silent. In 2004, one Moken noticed that silence. He shouted a warning. The entire community fled to high ground. Not one of them died. Mohad Rizwan was 51 years old that day. As a child, his father had told him the same story over and over. Before bed in the dark, like a lullaby. Listen to this, his father would say. An earthquake happened, then giant waves came. The whole country sank suddenly. His father's relatives had died in the 1907 tsunami. That's why the story was always told in full. If the earthquake is strong and the water is pulling back, go to high ground immediately. Don't forget this message. On the morning of December 26, 2004, Rizwan felt the tremor. And he didn't think twice. I immediately remembered the stories I'd heard from my parents, he would say years later. Wow, I thought, this is what they told me about. He gathered his family. He ran to high ground. A few minutes later, the sea pulled back. Then the wave came. Rizwan's story wasn't unique. That same morning, thousands of people across the island did the exact same thing because they had all grown up hearing the same lullaby. A story made of nothing but words carried from father to son for 97 years. And that story accomplished something that science, technology, and early warning systems had failed to do. It saved 70,000 lives. Now take a step back. The elephant carries a sensing tissue in its feet. The snake carries an alarm system in its skin. You carry a pressure in your joints, an ache in your head, a restlessness inside you that you can't quite name. Maybe you don't have an alarm as sharp as the elephant's, but maybe you never needed one. Because instead of evolving a biological alarm system over millions of years, humans invented something far more powerful. Memory, story, a warning a father whispers to his son in the dark before sleep, a signal that can be carried unbroken for 97 years. That is our infrasound. That is our footpad. It isn't carried in our bodies. It's carried in our language, in our memory, in the words we pass from generation to generation. And maybe here is the most unsettling truth. An elephant's alarm never goes silent. It's written into its genes. It cannot be forgotten. But a human's alarm, a story, can be silenced. It can be forgotten. If one generation stops telling it, the next generation won't know when to run. The people of Simeulue survived because one grandfather never stopped telling the story. Which stories have you stopped telling? And without them, when the moment comes that you need to run, will you know too?